Now available for the first time on Google Play, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are falling apart in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy on Google Play today.
The parents of alleged mass shooter Ethan Crumbley have been arrested and charged with manslaughter. Now, your James and Jennifer Crumbley were supposed to turn themselves in to law enforcement for arraignment. However, they decided to go on a attempt to try to escape and were found at a warehouse hiding, where they found them trying to possibly try to leave the country. Now, these actions by your James and Jennifer Crumbley show some sort of complicitness, and when you start to look at alleged text messages sent to Ethan Crumbley on the day of the shooting, it's looking like your James and Jennifer Crumbley possibly knew about Ethan Crumbley's planned mass shooting, and it looks like they possibly helped him along with this whole alleged mass shooting. Now, when I take a critical examination of your James and Jennifer Crumbley, they are the archetypes for your beta male type parents of beta males like Ethan Crumbley, who all fit the pattern and profile that I talk about regarding beta males in my book, The Man Crisis. And it's clear to me that this family was a ticking time bomb, and this family went out here looking to encourage their son to explode in this rage, because when you have a mother going out here and sending text messages to her son telling him not to do it on the day of the shooting, it really shows some sort of complicitness as related to the parents. Now, according to an Inside Edition report, the ex-wife of James Crumbley, who has an 18-year-old son with him, alleges that Jennifer Crumbley was a serious head case, and that this woman was one of these types that had some sort of fanaticism as related to weapons. This was shown in a letter that she wrote to President Trump as related to guns, and James Crumbley's ex-wife says that Jennifer Crumbley allegedly went out here and was going and encouraged her husband to participate in dysfunctional behavior. So I'm looking at this case based on the facts that are being presented in media, and it's looking like your Ethan Crumbley was an apple that didn't fall far from the tree from his beta male father, and that your Jennifer Crumbley was practically running the household, and this possibly led to your Ethan Crumbley's dysfunction being taught from day one and enabled in him, and it possibly led to the foundation of this beta male rage that this beta male had, and the beta male father looks like he enabled the beta male rage to continue to go on by fostering an environment where the boy was encouraged to participate in his violent and what I believe to be sociopathic behavior, because no normal boy goes out here and talks about planning murders of his fellow classmates, or sits there and talks about searching for ammunition on a smartphone, which is alleged to be the disturbing behavior that teachers saw him participating in the classroom. Now, what is really, again, disturbing here is that it looks like we have a family that was working together in some way, shape, or form, that knew that about this boy's plans, because according to reports, it is alleged that your Jennifer Crumbley sent Ethan Crumbley text messages after they had the meeting with school officials, and he was allowed to return back to class. Now, that's a very disturbing thing that, as I see it, to have go on, to allow a student who has gone out here and one, searched for ammunition online inside of a classroom, drawn pictures of murdering his fellow classmates that were seen by teachers and allowed this individual to return back to the classroom. Now, in most cases, if teachers and administrators used to see an individual like this, they would eliminate this individual from the classroom, extricate them from the school grounds, and ensure that this person was not allowed to come to the campus to do harm to others. Unfortunately, what happened here looks like another case of bad white privilege where this white male was given a pass because he was white, and sadly, because they gave this white beta male a pass, he went out here and participated in a mass shooting that wound up taking the lives of 4 of his classmates. So I can see how the school, in this case, can be held liable for the deaths of those 4 innocent students because the school knew how dangerous Ethan Crumbley was and still allowed him to return to the classroom. But when I look at the bigger picture of it, the parents are also liable as well because it looks like the parents could have possibly been complicit based on the text messages that the mother sent to her son, and based on those text messages, it's looking like she was possibly in on the murder or knew something about the murder that Ethan Crumbley was planning to participate in. That's what it's looking like based on what is presented in reports that your Ethan Crumbley's parents possibly knew that this was going to happen, but they did absolutely nothing to stop it. And if that's the case, these are some really twisted parents, and I have to wonder how they raised this boy who clearly had a case of beta male rage, and as he was simmering and boiling in this anger, was looking for somebody to do harm to. He really was one of those guys who, again, wanted to hurt people, and I believe in some cases he must have been encouraged by one of those parents, because for a father to go out here and buy a gun on Black Friday, and according to some reports, possibly buy this gun just for his son, this is really troubling, and it shows some really disturbing behavior. And this boy, as I see it, he basically was like many of what people call the thugs on the street, and this is something I'm taking from Mr. Superboy, and it's also something I have said about Kyle Rittenhouse, and it shows a disturbing trend as related to these beta white males and their obsession with guns and weapons. Because like the thug who goes out here and gets his gun, he thinks that this gun is going to allow him to have power, and what he wants to do is show his power by going out here and using that weapon, and when they use that weapon, they want to use it to do harm to someone. And I believe your Ethan Crumbley, once he got that gun, he was eager to go out here and do harm to someone. He was eager to see somebody's life taken, and he wanted to see this happen because he wanted to see the life leave out of somebody's eyes. Because when a lot of these thug type guys, they just want to kill for the sake of killing, and that's why they are just so eager to go out here and get their weapon. Because if this boy was writing about this in a journal and writing about it on his cell phone, again, this boy had been planning this for a while. But what's even more disturbing is we're starting to see a picture where possibly the parents were the ones who helped encourage him. And if that's the case, this family is extremely disturbing when you really think about it. It's just like Kyle Rittenhouse and his mother. This is the ultimate form of abuse. You're encouraging your child to go out here and do harm to others. And I have to wonder what type of culture is being taught to these kinds of children, because if you have your children teaching them to just go out here and do harm to others, that's a serious sign of child abuse. That's a serious sign of child neglect. But it seems like many people don't want to talk about this because they don't want to talk about the dysfunctional way we have been raising boys here in America, and they don't want to talk about the way we're raising boys to become these men who are ticking time bombs, and they don't want to talk about how these boys, because they are just filled with rage, and in this case, programmed to be filled with rage, are looking to go out here and do harm to others. Because from the looks of things, it's looking like the parents were complicit, and the parents, once they heard about the charges, they decided to go on the run. And that really shows you how these parents really didn't have good ethics. Because if you love your son, you're going to hold him accountable for his actions, and then you're going to take responsibility for your own actions. But this family shows us how mercenary they were, because they practically were willing to get ready to abandon their son to the criminal justice system to be charged as an adult with felonies like terrorism and first-degree murder, and they were willing to leave their son to have to deal with Bubba and Tiny, and leave him to be traded for Little Debbie snack cakes and your ramen noodles and cups of coffee. They were willing to abandon their son. And again, what type of parents do that but abusive parents, sociopathic parents? And if the parents are this twisted in their actions, this is why you get this apple that fell far from the tree and grew up to become a child of the corn, who went out here and participated in carnage, where he wound up murdering innocent people, all because he wanted to see himself use a gun. Again, it's no different than what we saw with your Kyle Rittenhouse a couple of weeks ago, a year ago, where he just wanted to go out here and use this gun. And again, this is what happens when you have boys who are not raised in a healthy household and doing boy things that are healthy, like going out here and learning about girls, going out here and getting their first part-time job, going out here and reading comic books, or doing normal boy things. No, we have males like this, who are being trained to be killers and obsessed with going out here and taking somebody's life. Again, no different than the thugs who used to terrorize the hood, but these urban terrorists, nobody wants to talk about how they are being trained and raised to be dysfunctional, because to talk about how they're dysfunctional is to confront this woman. And many people, again, are not ready to confront this woman in gynocentric America, because to confront this woman means to hold her accountable for the way this boy was raised. And it's looking to me like this boy possibly was being raised to either possibly be a sociopath or a white supremacist or some kind of killer, because the dysfunctional way this boy was raised, for his mother to be sitting there saying, "Don't do it," in a text message, that really shows me that this mother, like Kyle Rittenhouse's mother, was a complete piece of work. And the values that she was teaching her son were teaching him to just be violent and to go out here and participate in violence without regard for anybody's consequences or regard for human life. So when I look at this whole case as related to Ethan Crumbley, it just gets more and more disturbing. And it's really disturbing to hear that these parents could have possibly been involved. And it's more disturbing to hear that the mother may have enabled this behavior in her son, and a father would go out here and buy a weapon for his son to go out here and do harm to others. It just is very disturbing, and it shows how the man crisis in this country is getting worse, and it also shows how we have a serious dysfunctional state with these beta males. And a lot of people are wondering how it's gotten so bad, but I have told everybody for years it's going to get worse instead of getting better. And the reason why it's getting worse is because many more of these males, they feel encouraged to participate in these kinds of actions, because when they see verdicts like the one in the Rittenhouse case, where your Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted for murder and it being justified in self-defense, this encourages them to go out here and believe that they are justified in doing harm to others, because they saw him get away with it, so they feel like they can get away with it as well. So when I look at this case and this latest development, It is another disturbing turn in this case, but this case fits that pattern and profile I talked about regarding beta males and the behavior of these beta males. Again, it gets more and more depraved, and there's nothing more and more depraved about anything than a mother and a father encouraging their son to participate possibly in mass murder. Now, if you want to learn more about the behaviors of beta males like this, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.